right. We are back again. Now, he's no stranger to the show. He's been on the channel before, and you've probably seen him at one of the million Bitcoin conferences and events that are out there. Okay. I am with Zach from Foundation Devices, the sexiest Bitcoin wallet on the market. That's true. Bitcoin wallets can be sexy, and they've done it there. And they have some exciting new updates. If you didn't see the press release and all that good stuff, and we're going to dive into it a little bit here with Passport Prime. So the flagship model, their Passport, you must have seen it. Zach is a Harvard Business School dropout, which is one of my favorite facts about him, actually. And he's a vehement advocate for open source technology. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong here now, Foundation Devices is fully open source hardware and software. A lot of cool facts. If you didn't know, they utilize US-based manufacturing. So no tariffs, which is kind of a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of advanced authentication features, which maybe we can touch on from a high level, because we're not going to go too technical, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. Unlike some of their competitors that we don't need to name, Ledger. But anyway, we're catching up with Zach today. And if you're in the world's largest Bitcoin-focused angel investing network, you know that we often have interviews and chats with our portfolio companies and companies where we have an opportunity maybe to invest again. So if you want all of those details, you can go to ltng.ventures or open your emails, because we've been emailing you about Foundation Devices. So Zach, you had some exciting personal news. I don't want to dox you too much, but how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. Yeah, I mean, I posted on Twitter like a week ago. We had our first baby 11 days ago now. So I'm didn't really take any time off, but this is my first, I guess, public appearance in a few weeks, and I'm pretty well rested, I think. Considering I feel pretty lucky with the amount of sleep that I and my wife have been getting.
Well, he got a new man cave too. Now he's up in the attic.
I am. Yeah, we rushed to finish the attic at the same time that we were preparing for the baby to arrive, and so I'm up here. I think we can still hear the baby crying, so hopefully it's not too loud in the background. But I still got to figure out my setup behind me with the shelves and everything. Just have a desk there for now, but it's nice to be up here, kind of like a little studio space, and I enjoy all the interior design and aesthetic stuff. And I was very hands-on with the project, and designed the space myself and everything like that. So very happy to have my own little Foundation studio up here in the attic.
Nice. You got the man cave.
I do.
And Zach is the weather's got to be getting nicer in Boston this time of the year. Zach is a Boston guy. We're not going to hold it against him though.
By choice, I stayed here after school, and so I've been here since 2010. But it is by choice. So you can't hold it against me.
All right, cool. Let's just take everyone through it in case they don't know. The website is foundation.xyz. There's a ton of stuff on here. There is a great Freedom Tech newsletter. If you're interested in all of those things, we're gonna get on that as well here. But you can really check out their newest release, which I think there is a full blog post, and then there's a great 20-minute keynote speech in which Zach really breaks down a lot of the details for this. This is kind of like an all-in-one security type of platform that we're going to go on. This is the biggest release that Foundation has had here fairly recently. So freedom.tech, if you want to sign up for that, very cool. If you want to stalk the gang on Twitter, it's Foundation DBCS, and then there's Zach. Looks like a wedding photo. I'm not exactly sure.
It was the wedding photo. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Well, listen, a lot's changed. We're not going to go into too many sensitive details because this is going to be in the public space. But what's new since we last invested and since we last hung out with you?
Yes. So I think, as you mentioned, the biggest news or release is our Passport Prime that we announced back in mid-December and we're getting ready to ship that product in the next couple of weeks. I actually have some of my colleagues at the factory now, which is near me. It's in the New England area. I'm kind of stuck in the house, but I'm starting to get out again, to try to get up there. But essentially, up until last December, Foundation has established ourselves as one of the main hardware wallet players in the Bitcoin space, right? With our Passport device that you held up before. This is our second generation Passport, which is now called Passport Core, which we're still selling. I think, it's the best in class Bitcoin hardware wallet. Fantastic reviews, by some review websites put us at #1 amongst all the hardware wallets. And I just think that we have this really almost cult following, this great customer base, and we've been selling, thousands and thousands of these devices over the last couple of years. But December, with this announcement, and over the next few weeks as we begin shipping Passport Prime, which is our new device, which is a touchscreen device, and we're calling it the world's first personal security platform, essentially is taking Foundation out of the hardware wallet company, moving us more into this new category of, I would almost describe it as like Bitcoin-centric secure computing. So the idea is that, yes, there's a lot of different hardware wallets that allow you to secure your Bitcoin or, secure your cryptocurrency. Of course, everyone knows Ledger is the dominant player. They are the only unicorn in the space. I believe they're, like a $1.5 billion company or so by the most recent public metrics. They sell almost 1 million devices a year, sometimes over, sometimes under by some counts. And then everyone else is kind of fighting for Ledger's scraps. And I think especially, in the Bitcoin market, you have a lot of competitors now that are Bitcoin only. Each one has its own niche, but, Foundation doesn't just want to be a niche Bitcoin hardware wallet maker, right? We want to essentially leapfrog Ledger. We want to completely eat their lunch. We want to go even above and beyond to compete with other companies in the security space. And so the goal with Passport Prime is secure your entire digital life with one device. So it's not just about securing your Bitcoin, it's about securing your entire digital life. And importantly, it's kind of running the iPhone strategy where we're taking all this different kind of tech that is typically in multiple devices or applications that, people use to keep themselves secure online. We're combining it all into one, beautifully designed, easy to use device, very premium in terms of the build quality and all the features. And we're also expanding the capabilities of the device as a first of its kind platform, a developer platform. So the goal with Passport Prime is we're going to leapfrog Ledger, but we're also going to go after other companies like Yubico for multi-factor authentication, and more. And we're really working to create this new category of personal security platform. So I could talk more about Passport Prime, but effectively, we're still very Bitcoin centric, but we realize that as a Bitcoiner, it's not just about storing your Bitcoin. It's about securing your entire, digital presence online. For most people, that's just so intimidating. And so I think we cracked it with this product. And I'm really excited to start getting it into people's hands in the coming weeks.
So Passport Prime, it's the first open source hardware wallet and security platform with its own operating system.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you've got the end-to-end encrypted communications with quantum link technology. Yeah. What the heck is that?
Yeah. So we did a bunch of things here. Like if we had done this, if we had tried to go build this product when we started Foundation back in 2020, I don't think we would have ever been able to build it. But this is like a culmination of everything we've learned over the last few years, right? So like all the customer feedback, we pioneered, not everyone remembers, but we pioneered the QR code air gap, right? Where we have like the camera on the back of the, the first 2 generation Passport devices. But what we realized is like, for most people, the QR codes are still, too difficult. We realized that we needed to have Bluetooth on here in order to do everything that we want to do. Just a great example is you want to go update the firmware on the device, right? As of right now, with Passport today, with Passport Core, you got to take the SD card, you got to plug it in and so on. With Passport Prime, it's all over Bluetooth. But everyone is terrified of Bluetooth because Bluetooth has a reputation of being pretty insecure, a lot of vulnerabilities. Wireless, people say, I don't want Bluetooth in my hardware wallet. So what we did was we actually created a new hardware and software design. We have the Bluetooth chip separate on the hardware, and we have this protocol called Quantum Link. And so you scan one QR code during setup, and it establishes essentially an end-to-end encrypted tunnel through the Bluetooth chip with post-quantum encryption. So even if the Bluetooth chip was like totally compromised or malicious or something like that, the Bluetooth chip actually does not know what it's sending or receiving. It's just passing messages that are already encrypted. And it's a really cool architecture, and it's a great example of how you can only do this if you design like the hardware and software together. And so what effectively it looks like is, you get Passport Prime out of the box, you scan a QR code, and then you're able to just use it with your phone without having to do the QR codes. Everything's over Bluetooth, firmware updates, transactions, installing apps onto the device actually, which is gonna be really cool. And it's all completely encrypted. And so it's almost like the security of an air gap, but you actually get the benefit of the wireless Bluetooth connection.
Yeah, I definitely want to find out about that app store and how that's going to work and the future of that. It's super exciting. So supporting a wide range of applications, like from obviously the Bitcoin management to like the broader security needs, right? And you have these multiple devices, you've got the 6-digit 2FAs, you've got YubiKeys and all of that. Is this designed to replace all of them? I mean,
It is. Wow. Yeah. And that's what's so cool, because like, as of right now, you think about what you need to do in order to secure yourself as a Bitcoiner, right? And a lot of this comes from myself personally, from people I know, and just from the experience that our entire team has. You have your hardware wallet in order to secure your Bitcoin, right? You're basically safeguarding the keys. You have 2FA codes. So it's very common to use 6-digit 2FA codes. Most people use Google Authenticator, which is pretty insecure now because there's like a cloud feature where if you're not careful, it uploads all of your 2FA codes to the cloud. People use YubiKeys, but YubiKeys are, firstly, there's no way to back them up, but then they can be difficult to use for a first-time user. There's like no app that goes with it. There's no instructions on how to use it. You have to have multiple YubiKeys because if you lose one, you don't have a backup. And then also, people are typically storing seeds in their password managers. So like if you have different seeds for hot wallets, maybe you have a seed for Phoenix or something, you have a seed for Blue Wallet, you have a seed for like whatever wallet apps you're using on your phone. Now you have to store those somewhere. And then also many developers and more technical users, like we actually use these in the company. We have encrypted flash drives where we can store data on that are like hardware encrypted with keypads on them. So what we wanted to do is say, combine all of that into a single device, right? Where you can just secure everything on there. And so as you can see in the screenshot that you're showing, right, you got your files, you got 64 gigs of storage on here. You got your 6-digit 2FA codes. You got your essentially virtual YubiKeys with NFC or a USB. You can store seeds, but we haven't announced it, but it allows you to store like Nostr keys and even just passwords as well. And then of course, all of the Bitcoin features that we have on Passport Core today, right? So best in class multi-sig, compatibility with basically every Bitcoin software wallet in the space and so on. And so all of that ships in V1 of the device. Those are all first-party apps that the foundation team has made. And then the cool thing is that this is just like the beginning, because later in the year, we're going to open up this SDK and allow third-party developers to release their own apps. It could be Bitcoin related, it could be crypto related, it could be just security related, right? It could be like a developer wants to enable easy code signing, and so they have like maybe someone's going to make like a GitHub type app where you could sign your GitHub commits, for example. So there's so many, I think, cool things that you can do with this new kind of platform. And we honestly don't really know what people are going to do with it, but I think the main emphasis and difference here is that it's an open platform. You don't need our permission to build on it, as opposed to Ledger, where they kind of have a platform, but like you can only release like apps for new coins, and you have to go through Ledger's approval process, which is a nightmare. And I've heard a lot of really bad things about that. So this is like the open security platform for all of your digital security needs.
So Passport Prime, not only addresses the niche small Bitcoin world,
Yeah.
but it expands that TAM, right? That's the big picture here to the broader
And
security market.
it's not just that. I think, yeah, it's definitely the TAM is big, but I also think the hardware wallet space is kind of stalling out right now. And I think you see that from Ledger, where if you look at Ledger's publicly announced numbers from 2 years ago when they first announced that new ink device, the Stacks, which is like kind of a curved ink device that they really struggled to bring to market with the manufacturing. They announced that they had sold like 1 million units. They announced that they had sold like 1 million units in the previous year. I think it was something like 7 million total units since inception. And I think they started around 2013 or 2014. Then they shipped Stacks over a year later, like a year and a half later, and they still were citing over 7 million units sold. So what that tells me, right, what that tells us all is that their growth is not, up and to the right. Their growth is kind of stalled out. And if their growth is stalling out, I think the entire hardware wallet space is kind of stalling out. Now, I'm sure we'll expect to see a big increase in growth during this new bull market, right? Bitcoin goes flying up. People are going to buy more hardware wallets. But I think there's a fundamental issue with these hardware wallets. There's like fundamental usability issues, right? Like Ledger's usability, onboarding, and backups hasn't really changed. They have that Ledger Recover product where they basically split your seed up and send it to custodians, which everyone rightfully freaked out about. And so there's been no real, changes in the user experience, the user interface, the actual devices themselves. So that's a big problem. But then also, I think there is a TAM problem, right? Where I think if the hardware wallets stay the way they are now, the growth potential is probably no more than, like, in my opinion, like a $5 to $10 billion market, maybe. But I think if you start to bring in the multi-factor authentication, you start to bring in the file storage, like the encrypted kind of flash drive capabilities, but then most importantly, you open up the platform. I think then you can experience a huge amount of growth. And it's very similar to the iPhone, right? Where they had the iPod, where it was a great business. It was a huge business, but everyone had an iPod. And I don't know how much more growth was going to come from iPods. Not many people had these PDAs. Everyone had a cell phone. But not only did they combine that into one new category, but then they had the App Store, almost just under a year after launching. And then no one could have predicted what was going to happen with the App Store in terms of these market sizes, right? And what that propelled the iPhone to. I think likewise, the security space really needs a platform-like product where you can get all your important stuff off of your phone. And I think the hardware wallet is one of those elements, but I think there's a lot of these other elements that are really important for the Bitcoiner, right? Or for this kind of savvy user that needs to secure all this stuff offline. And so that's where I think the idea of this personal security platform comes into play. And Passport Prime is essentially going to have no direct competitors. It'll have competitors within its categories, but it's not going to have any direct competitors in terms of what the device is capable of doing.
So the SDK, so that how does that play into KeyOS? Can you explain how KeyOS fits with that? And then are you going to have requirements for the apps that are released? And
yes,
go ahead.
Yes, a couple things there. So one is, like, no one has done a new OS in this industry since Ledger did their Bolos OS almost, I think, over a decade ago now. And what Ledger's OS is effectively a variation on a legacy smart card operating system. And you may have heard the term smart card or Java card. It's the same tech that's in credit cards, and it's been around for like 30 years. So essentially, Ledger came in a little over a decade ago, and they said, we're going to kind of do like a variant of a smart card OS that works for crypto. And then they allowed people to release apps to run on it. The problem is all of those apps essentially pull from the same master seed. And so, can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah, okay. You're good.
I just crashed out for a second. So on Ledger, all those apps pull from the same master seed. And that's a problem because if you had like a malicious app, that app could figure out what the seed is on your device, and it could essentially steal all your money. What we had to do in order to allow developers to permissionlessly build apps, where you could run an app on Passport Prime, and even if that app was malicious, it's like in its own sandbox. It can't do anything, because we had to build our own operating system. And so it's called KeeOS. It's a first of its kind microkernel operating system written in Rust. Those are just like some buzzwords, but like the key point here is that it's all app based, and that everything runs in its own sandbox. And the operating system manages the permissions for every different app. And every app is able to get, like, it can request from the operating system a child key or seed that it can use, but there's no way for that app to go figure out like what the master seed is on the device. And so what it does is, for the first time, it opens up the door for developers to just go release apps that users can install, on their device, without Foundation having to go through like a review process, and without having to kind of approve or kind of loom over this walled garden type platform like Ledger does. And so when we have the SDK later this year, there'll be two different ways to get apps onto Passport Prime. One is to go through us, where we'll have like an app catalog in our Envoy mobile app, where you can browse and install apps directly onto Passport Prime over Bluetooth. And if you want to go through that route, there's only going to be a few requirements. The biggest one is the app has to be open source and reproducible, right? Because we want the users to feel comfortable knowing that the code for that app that's on GitHub is what's actually being installed onto their device. But if you want to, you can also just release your app directly to users. They'll have to like tap a little thing to essentially install like the developer public key for that app, essentially understand that like they're trusting this third-party developer, in which case there's no requirements, for the apps. I just want to emphasize like how cool this is, because up until now, you can take, let's take, for example, in Bitcoin world, there's some companies working on this like mini script stuff. There's different kinds of vaults, there's insurance products. How the hell do you display mini script on a hardware wallet screen? Like, this is an open problem where if you go to these technical Bitcoin conferences, they'll talk about how no one really knows how to display this stuff in a human readable form. And if you were to allow your users to just say use Ledger or a different kind of device, you have no control or customization over how that's displayed. But now, with Passport Prime, you're going to be able to go make an app, and it's going to be able to do exactly what you want. You can put your logo on Passport Prime. You can put your UI. You could figure out how you want to display these transactions to users. And so you can basically ship an extension of your existing app or service onto Passport Prime. And that's why the app stuff is so cool. And so I think we're going to see like a proliferation of developers who have not really been able to make anything custom to run on these hardware wallets. They've been stuck with like the very limited features and the very limited screens and UIs and so on that are on these devices. And they're going to be able to make it where anything is compatible with a hardware wallet or a hardware wallet like device like Passport Prime. Arc is another thing. Like, there's no hardware wallets that support Arc or any of these other kind of new Bitcoin L2 type things. Do you want to go lobby Ledger for years to try to get them, to make something? Or do you just want to go make an integration yourself and just ship it onto this permissionless platform? So we're thinking that Passport Prime, because it's open and permissionless, is going to kind of open up the market size and open up the idea of, developers are going to be able to enable all of their users to access like secure offline storage really easily and fully customize, the experience for users.
So Zach mentioned Envoy. For those who don't know, that's a free complimentary app
Yes.
that integrates with your Passport Prime. Now, that's the same as the previous version, right?
It is. This year, though, we are. I think it's very likely we'll have like Lightning in there this year. Maybe some other stuff in there. So basically, Envoy is just our mobile companion app for our Passport devices, where you can onboard, do firmware updates, do transactions, that kind of thing. But it also has like a free hot wallet, but it's an on-chain wallet. So we're working to also improve that. We don't want Envoy to like compete with all the different Bitcoin wallets in the space. We look at Envoy as it's an amazing wallet for like a first-time Bitcoiner. You just want to get some Bitcoin onto there. You want to have some Bitcoin in a hot wallet. You want to be able to move Bitcoin into your hardware wallet right on Passport. And you want to really easily actually access some powerful features. Like, I think we probably have the best coin control in the business. It's just super easy to use to label your transactions, to write notes. We have Tor, we have node connectivity, all that kind of stuff in the box, and just a really user-friendly package with Envoy.
So it makes me think of Breeze when you're thinking about an app and a non-custodial. I'm hoping I'll bug you offline.
Yeah.
I hope Roy's listening.
We're actually evaluating some options for like the best way to do Lightning. And our lead developer for Envoy was actually one of the people that built the original Breeze app and knows obviously those guys really well. So we're trying to figure it out. We want to make it as easy as possible for users to basically go from like Lightning to on-chain to cold storage, where it doesn't feel like you're sending transactions. It feels like you're kind of transferring things, like you transfer between your checking and savings account, right? And your bank interface. The idea is like, if you want to move some funds from Lightning into your Passport Prime, it shouldn't feel like you're doing a transaction. It should feel like you're just doing like a transfer. Mm-hmm. And so we're really working towards like that level of UX with Envoy.
Okay. So you had your best 60-day sales period, no numbers.
Yeah.
Is that just seasonality? Do you expect that every year, or was that kind of the bull market starting to take off? Like that was like a December, January period was really gangbusters for you. What do you think that was?
I don't think it's just seasonality. I think the biggest thing for us was that we announced Passport Prime in mid-December, and we had over 100,000 organic impressions on that announcement. It was the first time we ever did a keynote video. I really enjoyed doing it. I think we're going to do a lot more of those as we ship and as we show off different product features. And it just brought a lot of eyes and attention to what Foundation is building. So the sales were about split evenly between Prime and Passport Core. And, if we're able to keep up that momentum this year, which of course the plan is, I think that, the goal is for Foundation to be profitable in Q3 of this year.
Okay. Can you touch on the Cake Wallet news and things? Is that still under wraps?
It is. Yeah. And we're having a great time working on that app with them. So the first app for Passport Prime, I should say the first third-party app, is with Cake Wallet, which is a very popular privacy-oriented crypto wallet. They're best known for supporting Monero. They also support Bitcoin and some other stuff as well. They have over 500,000 active users, and they really struggled to get their Monero support working for Ledger, and it's still an ongoing struggle. And so we thought it would be really great to partner with them and work with them to essentially release the first app that's not made by Foundation for Passport Prime. So they're working, and we're working together actually on it, on a Cake app. And so what that's going to do is allow all of their user base, which like I said is over 500,000 active users, where if they get a Passport Prime, they can one-click install the Cake app, and they can have just instant cold storage. You see the little Cake logo on device. You get a little miniaturized version of the Cake UI on Passport Prime, and you can really easily move funds, into and out of cold storage. And so the goal for us is, we're a Bitcoin-centric company. I think one of the challenges for other hardware wallets is they're either supporting Bitcoin only, or their team is going to support all these different coins. And I think that's a huge distraction. I think that creates a lot of marketing challenges. Like if you go look at Ledger's Twitter feed, it's kind of a mess of like, buy this coin, buy that coin, and so on. But I think it is important to allow developers, if they want to say, we want to go build an app for Passport Prime to support whatever app or service they're making. So our strategy to compete with Ledger and to expand rapidly, to eat their lunch and to ultimately leapfrog them, is to build the best developer platform for cold storage or for security applications. And so Cake is going to be the first app that we're working with. We're working with them before we even have the SDK ready. And we're using the experience of working with Cake to help build and ship that SDK, later this year. And so I think it's going to be really cool because we're going to be able to, like, from a go-to-market approach, market to each of these communities that works with us to build an app. So the Cake community is an amazing privacy-oriented community. I think they're like a perfect first community to work with for the third-party app. We're also talking to other popular wallets. And I think that as we support more and more wallets with these native, third-party apps, more and more developers will want to add support for Passport Prime when they see how good the experience is. It's just next level compared to what you can do on like a Ledger today.
So, all right, now we promise we're going to keep it short, and we can end up talking. We haven't even talked about the round yet, but just real quick. So, you're in a hardware business, right? So for founders, for people who are building, and you must get a lot of not interested just because of that. It's no secret. The margins are, I don't know, between 50 and 60%. And everyone's been on your back about sort of a subscription product. So, is that what the Foundation Shield is? Is that where that comes in?
Yes, so we're going to be launching that later this year as well. We are addressing, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, problems with hardware wallets today, which is the setup and backups. Because if you think about it, you're not just storing Bitcoin on here, you're storing files, you're storing security keys, you're storing all these seeds and stuff. It's basically like securing your entire digital life. And so it's not enough to just like back up a seed, right? Like with a ledger or something else, you just back up the seed, you're fine. But with this, you actually want to back up not just the seed, or like we call it the device master key, but you want to back up all of the data stored on there. So there's some great examples of how to do that well. The best one is iCloud, right? With iCloud backups and recovery. Everyone who uses an iPhone knows, right? You pay Apple some monthly subscription for iCloud. You get some storage on there. Most people pay for it because they're storing, a bunch of stuff. They need the extra storage space. Your iPhone is backing itself up in the background. And if you, God forbid, you lose it or something like that, you can just one click restore everything onto a new iPhone. So what we're doing is a very similar service with the Shield subscription offering. We actually ship NFC cards when you buy Passport Prime. They come in these really cool Faraday sleeves. So when you're setting up Passport Prime, you don't have to write down any seed. You just tap one of these cards to the back, and we actually give you 3, but you need to tap at least 2 of them, and it creates a Shamir, like 2 of 3 seed storage. So 2 of the pieces of your master key are stored in these cards, and 1 is actually stored like on your phone in Envoy. And then what we do is we take an end-to-end encrypted backup of everything on Passport Prime. We send it through Bluetooth Quantum Link to Envoy and then to the Foundation server. We don't collect anything. We don't know your email. There's no password. We don't know anything about you. We're just storing this blob of encrypted data, on your behalf. So then if you lose Passport Prime, all you have to do is connect it to your phone, again, over Bluetooth. You tap one card to it. It essentially puts your seed or your master key back together on device, and then it downloads that backup from our server, that encrypted backup, and it decrypts it locally on device. And so there's going to be some very minimal features that you get there for free because we want everyone to be able to benefit from it. But I think most users are going to want to upgrade to the $5 a month subscription offering. We're doing a free trial though, with all the devices that we sell. But when you upgrade, you're going to get storage for multiple backups, kind of like a backup history. You're going to get more storage space. You're going to get a lot of other cool features like extended device warranty, priority support, and so on. So we think probably at least half or more users will be willing to pay $5 a month to get all those features, because it covers that worst case scenario where if you lose your device, everything comes back on it just like you had it. We'll also add some cool social recovery, some inheritance stuff. We'll kind of keep beefing up that service over time. And no one is doing this. Like the only competitor that has any kind of monthly recurring revenue, like subscription, is Ledger with Ledger Recover. We know how that's been received on the market, which is it's been received really badly because the key is actually leaving your device. What's so cool about this is that as long as you have these cards, you're not putting your key online. You're storing the majority of the key material, in your possession offline on these cards.
Now, as far as other non-hardware revenue, I think it depends where you're located. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but you can actually purchase Bitcoin through the Envoy app in certain markets, right?
You can. Yeah, we partner with a company called Ramp to do that. I don't think it necessarily has the best user experience on the Ramp side. I think we did an awesome job integrating it into Envoy, where you can essentially buy Bitcoin directly to your Passport without needing to copy or paste addresses or anything like that through our Envoy app. But we actually are working with Stripe now. So later in the year, we're going to be swapping over to Stripe, which is a little bit, I would say it's much better user experience, especially in the US or Europe. Most people already have like some kind of like Stripe account associated with their phone number or email address. And so that'll make it even easier. And over time, I think we'd like to add more on-ramp offerings to the app as well with other great, Bitcoin companies. So we do have that. I would say it's a very small part of our revenue right now. But as we grow, it could end up becoming a much larger part of the revenue makeup for Foundation.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about the round real quick. What can you share?
So could share a little firstly of the history. Back in mid 2022, we raised a $7 million seed round led by Polychain, and we are raising a $2.5 to $3 million seed extension round right now. The goal is it's an extension to get us to profitability, right? Our goal is to be profitable by end of Q3 of this year. And it's being led, funny enough, by the same partner that led the Polychain round. He's now running his own fund called Arch Capital. And so he's leading this round. So we have continuity of partner, the same lead investor that really understood and supported our vision back from 2022 onwards. Will Wolf is his name, and he's supporting us here. So we have over half of the round, already signed. And so we're looking to basically fill things out now and really focus on getting Passport Prime launched and getting to profitability later this year.
So how's the fundraising market? From your mouth to everyone's ears, how is it? Because that's a pretty decent sized round, and there aren't too many that are coming together right now. Do you feel like it's better than it was? I mean, how is it?
I think it's probably the worst fundraising environment since when we started the company in 2020, when we actually incorporated the company on the day the COVID lockdowns were announced. And so that was a bad funding environment, especially trying to raise money, for a pre-product, pre-revenue hardware startup in 2020. This is, I think, extremely challenging as well. I think, because we're working with the same people, right? It's a lot of current investors, insiders, the same partner that led, the past seed round. I think that's why we're able to do it, and pull it together successfully. It's a really difficult environment though right now for probably for newer founders in the space. What I would say though is I think Foundation is going to greatly benefit this year from the Made in America aspect, of what we're doing, where we were ahead of the curve on this trend because we've been building in the US since we started the company, and we as a founding team have experience since 2017 building hardware in the US, and specifically we have this New England supply chain that we've put together that's fantastic. But I think what's going to happen is as the year goes on, as we get Passport Prime successfully launched, get to profitability and have a really compelling story around we're the only company making this kind of product in the US, I think we're going to be able to attract a lot of attention, not just from the Bitcoin or crypto VCs, but from more of the American dynamism, type investors that are really interested in this idea of the US made secure computing type products. And so that's really how I'm thinking about this year, right? We'll likely want to do some kind of Series A late in the year or maybe early in 2026, depending on the market dynamics. And I think that this Made in America emphasis and this new trend that we're seeing is really going to be a benefit, to Foundation.
So you mentioned planning to achieve profitability. I guess it was no secret soon, right? Q2, middle of 2025, or in the next few months. What are the key sort of drivers to get there? Is it constantly increasing the margins, or is it the release of Passport Prime, or is it the subscription, or is it kind of a little bit of everything?
It's primarily Passport Prime, right? And so, I mean, if we're at if we're able to do something like, so we sold out of our early access program, which is 1,000 units. If we're able to do 10,000 units by, into Q3, we'll be profitable for the year. And that's accounting for some ancillary stuff like Passport Core sales. And we probably won't really be counting the subscription revenue as part of that yet, because most of our users will still be on free trials for that. We do have like the concierge product, which has, it's like our concierge onboarding product. And we're working to grow the attach rate for that as well. I think it's around like 5% now, working to grow that higher. It's like a 50% gross margin, product as well. So I think there is some ancillary stuff. We also have all these cool accessories for Prime. We have 3 different types of cases. We're going to also be selling like a steel backup type product. So we're definitely working to like pad the average order size and the margins and everything like that. But primarily this is a Passport Prime story. And so if we're able to have a few other great partners besides Cake over the next several months, we're able to get the manufacturing ramped up properly, get to that 10,000 unit milestone for Prime, which I think we'll be able to do, without issue this year, especially if we're kind of going into more bull market, territory, then Foundation will be profitable.
Yeah, and the margins on those accessories have to be considerably higher.
Yeah, they are. But it's tough because we want to build as much as possible in the US. A lot of the components do come from China because it's like electronic components. But luckily, all of like the electronic components have been exempted from the tariffs. So things like accessories, they are pretty high margin, but it's surprisingly difficult to find like high quality accessory manufacturers or suppliers in the US. So that's going to be a thing where we'll see how effective we are on the tariffs. The only thing that really affects us tariff wise right now is accessories and packaging, right? Because it's still very difficult to find some really high quality packaging suppliers in the US. Like the packaging for Prime is beautiful. It's really Apple, Apple quality packaging and how we put this box and everything together. But overall, I feel really optimistic about things. And our average margin, I think, per purchase as we launch Prime and we have these accessories and other stuff, it's probably going to go into probably 60+%. But then as soon as we figure out what the attach rate is for the subscription recurring revenue, I think that's going to be a huge driver for us in terms of business. If we can get that to over 50%, attach rate, that's going to be, a very significant source of recurring revenue for the company as we grow. And I think we've cracked it with this model. And I think we're going to be the only one in the space with actually like a sustainable and growing a recurring revenue product that customers love and actually really see the value, that it offers.
Cool, man. Well, listen, we are up on time, and let's close it out with, we are about a month away from probably the biggest Bitcoin conference in the history of conferences. And I just found out you will be there. So what's going on? Are you speaking? Is there a major announcement? Are you selling these Passport Primes at your booth?
Yes, so we'll have all the devices on display. I think the question is whether we'll be having inventory of Passport Prime there or not. I'm honestly not sure right now because we already have the first 1,000 sold, right? And so we're going to be shipping those out. I'm hoping we'll be able to bring some inventory to sell, but worst case, you'll still be able to see all the products, live, get your hands on it, try it out. And really get to experience the different products that we have, but especially Passport Prime. We'll have, I think, 11 or 12 of us on the team there. We'll have a nice medium-sized booth there. I will be speaking. I think there's a panel about I think it's about like seeds, hardware wallets and seeds and that kind of thing. So I'll be speaking for that, and it'll be my first, I think, time I'll be traveling since having the baby. So it'll be my first time getting out of the house, basically.
Well, you will enjoy that. I think you'll have maybe 1 or 2 adult beverages while you're out there in Las Vegas as well.
1 or 2, yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I will see you in Vegas. A lot of people from our group will also see you in Vegas, and I've seen the Foundation team in action. I've seen them roll in with a crap load of units and roll out with 0. So hopefully, whatever they bring, they end up moving there. And yeah, so if and you're in our group and all that good stuff. Hit us up with any questions. I want to thank you, Zach, for coming and hanging out once again today, and wish you luck with the rest of this round.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Cheers, buddy.